Welcome everyone again to the Learning to Birth webinar series, where we interview some of the world's most interesting and inspiring thought leaders in birth and pregnancy. Today we have with us Kemi Johnson. Welcome, Kemi.
Hi, Akasha. Hi, everyone.
Everybody, Kemi Johnson is a KG hypnobirthing teacher and teacher trainer, an independent midwife, and also a facilitator of the positive birth positive birth movement. All right, beautiful.
Right.
So welcome. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your history and your path and how you got here?
Yes, I would love to. I was running from my calling as an independent midwife. Well, as a midwife, I knew it from the time I started my training. I knew, oh no, I cannot join this circus. I need to work directly with women. So I got that impression fairly early on in my training, and I knew what independent midwives were. So yes, when I started my training, I already knew that I'd be working independently with women. Simply because I actually wanted to work directly for the woman. I didn't want anyone else giving her instructions or restricting her choices about birth. So, but I ran from that calling. So I knew I wanted to be a midwife working with women and now I say with people, because for sure, you know, I'm waking up to the idea that not everyone that identifies, or not everyone that gives birth identifies as a woman. So, you know, straight up, I will work with birthing people. And at the age of 15, I realized that. And I had quite good grades at school, etc. So my dad thought he misheard me and said, "Oh, you want to be an obstetrician?" I said, "Oh, no. I definitely know it's midwifery. I need to work with women, and I understand that birth works and I don't need to fix it. So that's how I need to work." So we had a minor altercation about that. And so in the end, I threw all my toys out of the pram and said, right, I'm not doing any of those. I'm going to go and be an accountant. So I did that. And also it was safer because, you know, you could mess up spreadsheets or, you know, the trial balance or, you know, but you couldn't actually be responsible for lives in the way that you are when you're a birth worker. So I thought that was a safe option and I took it. But the calling kept nipping at my heels, and then I had my own children, and then I realized, oh my goodness, no one else can go through what I've gone through having my children. So yeah, it just became obvious and pressing, and I literally was stopped in my tracks by the calling. So, you know, I had to observe it in the end, and I went and became a midwife. Very difficult, the training, because I was seeing a lot of women being abused. So that was horrific, absolutely horrific. So as soon as I could, I changed my environment and where I was working. And yeah, so that's probably why I'm still a midwife, because you know, some of my amazing colleagues, I don't know how they do it. They're so strong. They keep going in painful environments. And I just admire them so much. I think if I hadn't been able to be picky about who I work with and where I work, I probably wouldn't be a midwife now, just being fair. But I think I would always be an activist. I just probably wouldn't be an independent midwife and an activist.
It's incredible that you knew what you wanted to do when you were so young. That's very, very beautiful.
It's the calling. It's not, I think those of us that really honour this, the birthing person and their journey, I think we're called. I don't think it's us. I think we open up and channel somebody, something. I do.
Life.
Yes.
Life. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
The call of life.
Yeah, that's right.
It's also amazing that throughout your training, you were you were there and you're experiencing those scenarios and those situations, but you were able to step back and go, like, actually judge it and go, this isn't okay and this isn't what I want to do.
Yeah.
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 And not be inculcated in it. That's really important.
A lot. I cried a lot. It's the most I've ever cried, becoming a midwife ever. And I
Wow.
haven't had an easy life. So yeah, it really shredded me. But yeah, I'm having a great life now. And yeah, I just see, babies just dropping out of women all over the place. It's lovely. It's lovely. It's the way they're made. That's what they do.
It is fantastic, isn't it? Do you want to unpack, you've just mentioned a little bit about becoming a birth activist. Do you want to unpack a bit like what that means? What is a birth activist?
It's so true, because I wouldn't ordinarily so easily claim the term, but I can't think that I'm anything else. I'm a birth activist first, and I'm an independent midwife, and I teach KG hypnobirthing to parents so that they can retain their power and know their choices and be relaxed. And I'm a positive birth movement facilitator, because I want parents to come to a free space where they can have tea and cake and hear positive birth stories and hear again about choice. But that's all an expression of my activism. So I realise that now. It's like I came out of my birth experiences and I just thought, no, it's not good enough. No. And yeah, and these are all my expressions of that.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about what KG hypnobirthing is that you teach?
I'd love to. KG hypnobirthing is, I used to be a massive skeptic, because I thought it was just reframing a woman's experience and, oh, no, it's fine, it's great, it's pain-free, oh, no, you don't have to push. I thought it was all that. I was a massive skeptic and quite disapproving of it, until I saw a couple hypnobirthing, just this baby literally melting out of this woman and her with joy. I thought, okay, I need to know how she did that, because I'd seen her journey from frightened woman to powerful woman with a really calm partner. And so I wanted to know a bit more about what that was. And then I searched for Catherine Graves's number on Google, and around 6 a.m. I found it. And so I just sat on the edge of my bed, like, just literally trembling, until I could call her at 8 o'clock in the morning, because I thought she was up from 5 anyway, but who knew? But it's polite, isn't it? So I waited until 8 a.m., then phoned her, and she invited me to teach training that day. And oh wow, I went. It was such serendipity. It was just meant to be. And I went along, and she was talking for about 90 minutes, and then that was it. I was done. It converted. It was so quick. It's like, oh wow, this is amazing. So I've been an evangelist about it ever since.
Fantastic. Yeah, and positive birth movement. Now, that's something that's pretty interesting. Do you want to tell us what that is and how it works?
Millie Hill founded the positive birth movement in 2012 because she found that no one was interested in hearing her positive birth story. so she thought, okay.
I know. Yeah.
It's stunning, our society just like, oh, no. Oh, well, that baby fell out of you because, they'll talk about the size of her hips, or, oh, yeah, well, you're a hippie, or, well, you must have been drugged to the eyeballs. They just don't believe that women are capable. It's just pure misogyny. I'm not going to dress it up. It's like, no, you're a woman. You can't possibly do something that amazing without medical assistance. So they don't want to hear it. And so that, when she founded that, it's like, just, yeah, of course, we should be doing this. We should be providing these spaces. There needs to be space for women to talk about their really bad birth experiences as well. So, but they can't be in the same place. So they can't, because a lot of women talking about their bad birth experiences is not about how poorly they made for birth, or how women are fallible. It's about what was done to them. that diverted the birth down a dramatic path. I'm not saying that birth isn't sometimes dramatic, it is, but it's the minority of times, not the majority of times, which is what we're hearing. So of course, a woman getting ready for birth, she can't hear these stories because it's going to affect her physiology. So, you know, the positive birth movement is so necessary. Women go there, they find out what their choices are, and then they know that they've got people holding them, holding their energy and assisting them to get to the place where they need to be. And then she's gone and written that amazing book, just like Catherine. They've both written amazing books. I'm so proud to be part of both of these movements. And I feel very lucky that they exist to enable me to channel my energy through to helping families. So I feel very lucky to be a part of both.
That's an incredible story to how it got created. That's really inspiring that when people said, no, you can't tell your birth story, she was like, you tell me I can't tell my birth story, I'm going to create a whole movement. Because that same thing happened. Yeah. In 2012, I had such an amazing, incredible birth story. And I wanted to tell people, and I tried to tell people in Facebook groups, and they were like, you can't tell people here, you'll make women feel bad, you know, because your birth story is so amazing. And so I was like, okay, I won't tell anyone then. I'll just listen. And so I was like, and it's like 6-7 years later, I've gone, hell, I'm going to make a summit and everyone can hear right here, you know, because the world has changed.
I love what you've done, because I just love what you've done. Women, birthing people, they need a place to gather to celebrate the incredible feats of bringing people earthside. I don't know how it's got such a bad rap. And anyone who wants to continue that, I just have no time for them. I will blank anyone now who puts down birthing people and their ability to birth, or sabotages it, or humiliates them, or traumatizes them. I can't have anything to do with people like that anymore. It's got to that point where I just won't sit and have discussions. I don't want to build bridges with people that harm birthing people. It's got to that point. There's too much harm being done. There's the internet, there are books, there are courses, conferences. There's no reason why anyone today would believe that women and birthing people can't give birth. There's no excuse, and I haven't got any time to talk with them anymore. I don't.
That is so true. It is so true. It is so out there, and every day we see more and more people on Instagram and everything reclaiming it and being proud of it. And I'm just so excited that this is happening. And yeah, things like this summit won't even be needed 5 years from now. People just...
Isn't it funny? Well, don't worry. You and I will meet on some lovely island. We'll meet in Fiji and just have fun. Rather than spending our time trying to get this information across, we could just like have fun lives, you know, drinking cocktails on the beach. I was saying, I say it quite regularly actually, and we all say it. All of the people that I know and love and I'm working with, and being around, they all say the same thing, that we hope in a few years' time we don't need to be doing this anymore. That, you know, families are talking, you know, that we're seeing little boys and little girls at births in the pool with their parents. Have you noticed the rash of wonderful pictures on Instagram of children in the pool with the birthing parent catching their own siblings? Oh God, it just tears of joy, honestly. These are amazing times.
They sure are. Yep, absolutely. And those kids will grow up knowing that birth is normal too, and then that's just a whole new, you know, change in the generations.
That's right. Absolutely.
Do you want to tell us a bit about how babies are perfectly adapted for the birthing process?
I'd love to. They are so amazing. They are squishy, is the first thing I must say. They can get into the most ridiculous positions. And we see evidence of that as well, because there's now film emerging of like babies inside of their amniotic sac moving around, kicking around before they're even born. I saw that on Instagram this morning, a cesarean birth. where there was a baby moving, to see this person in their watery world. You know, we all think that they're so incapable and just sit there, you know, that they're not an active part of their process. They are. And, you know, they squish, like breech babies. When they come out, you have to kind of fold their legs down to change their nappies, and they spring back up again. You know, they can suck their own toes. They're so bendy and amazing. And, you know, the fact that they can live in that watery environment, and they have reflexes to not breathe for all those months. And then when they come out, they transition to learning to breathe, and that their blood flow, rather than just going through 2 chambers of the heart, diverts and goes through 4 chambers and via the lungs. And the babies, they can breathe. And they've got their dual support system. Can you imagine that? They've got their placenta passing blood to them, their own blood to them, whilst they're learning to breathe. And they've got that lovely down on them to keep them warm inside. And they have that lovely vernish. They've got amazing skin integrity when they come out. And they give themselves their own blood transfusion when they get out. So they move from fetal hemoglobin to adult hemoglobin. And they can do that. And their livers can do that. And then produce a waste product that they pee out. I just think the whole process is so beautifully refined. And I get upset. How dare we randomly, gratuitously intervene with this process? How dare we cut and clamp their cords when they get out so they don't have their full blood complement? How dare we give them antibiotics just in case? You know, they need a microbiome that works for them, that their gut immunity can flourish, that they can be present in the world in good health. And we just randomly sabotage it with no good evidence whatsoever. But yeah, the babies are just amazingly adapted to intrauterine life, and then that transition to extrauterine life. And then they're learning all the time and listening to voices, and learning a language before they can even express themselves in it, and recognizing their parents, and knowing where the food is at. You know, they can do so much. They're so amazing. You can even teach a baby. A baby, you're not teaching them. You're kind of awakening in them their ability to pee and poo on demand with elimination communication. You know, you can go and they'll wee. You know, they're incredible beings. In fact, I think we minimize them with the way we treat them. They are so capable and strong and learning at the fastest rate that they'll ever learn on this planet. Yeah.
Yeah, they are amazing. And they're not inhibited by language and culture like we are. They're just their own pure selves.
That's right. Yeah. And picking up people's intent without the gift of language until they're able to express themselves. They can feel what people are about.
Yeah, they're just pure intelligence. They're bursting out. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's pure intelligence. So true.
Yeah.
There's a thing now where we are sharing more. You know, I know lots of people are quite critical of social media, but I think it is what you make it. And I personally think there's no better time than now for truth to be spread and for minds to be changed. I think once you're open, you can learn anything. You can transition from a place of pure ignorance and disrespect to awe and respect and knowledge. You can transition really easily from one to the other. That's why I've run out of time for talking with people that insist that birthing people are helpless and putting them on their backs with their legs in the air. It's sabotage. It's sabotaging the birth.
It is. And I really can't think of anywhere else in the medical profession where information that was obtained and developed maybe a century ago, where there really were no practices in place for kind of ethical, research and, like we have today, those same practices that they're so interventionary, they're so hands-on and disrespectful, and they were developed 100 or so years ago, some of them a little bit more modern, and yet we hold them today as gold and you know, law. And whereas today, if we were going to look at what interventions need to happen with birth, how do we, you know, medically assist birth, the research into it would be done so completely differently, and you know, in a different, you know, randomly controlled way. And then, so there would be just normal people birthing. It wouldn't just be what we have now of this, you know, 30% cesareans, 20% episiotomy, and 50% scared. It would be, you know, 100% or 50, you know, there would just be different statistics around what was done before even thinking about intervention, you know, in terms of being a medically positive way forward.
And would that be so beneficial if the percentages shifted? Because we really can't afford to resource the interventions that we are using with such prevalence at the moment. We really can't afford it. And as I said, you know, I'm scientifically minded. So if you can find a way to save a mother and a baby, and you can refine that way, as in induction or cesarean section, but you're only using it with couples, with birthing people that need it, then I'm happy with that. But that's not what's happening. I want them to refine cesarean section practice. I want them to be able to induce efficiently and minimizing discomfort for mother and baby. I want them to be able to progress with these interventions in a wonderful, effective and helpful way. But the overuse of it is almost criminal. Yeah. And what happens to the birthing person once this intervention has taken place on a holistic level? So many people are having to overcome unnecessary intervention and spending decades doing that.
Yeah.
And not, you know, I know at the end of the day, the person giving birth, it's totally their body, their right, their choice. But we have to remember that babies then suffer whatever the choices were, and their health is impaired by it. So, yeah, you know, their quality of life. Yeah. I just think we need a complete overhaul. I mean, if people were willing to change just because of the new knowledge and evidence and common sense and the conversation, if those in power, obstetric wise, were just willing to change, then I'd feel confident that we would. But I can see that there's a power struggle. There seems to be power and control, you know, that is derived from coercing vulnerable people. And it's not that they're weak when you're a birthing person or carrying a little one. You're strong, but you're vulnerable. The center of gravity's off, and you know, you can't run as fast, and your hormones, the cocktail of hormones, wants you to tend and befriend. It doesn't want you to be sitting there arguing and discussing, you know, and fighting for your rights. That's not the time. And so, yeah, I've just come to this point where I've realized that perhaps it just needs a complete overhaul, a rejection en masse by birthing people, just to reject that and know for themselves that they can do it. And if they can't, then we can enter obstetrics or medical services and get help then. But I think restoring that knowledge that actually, just like any other bodily function, birth works. I think if that can be taken on by most parents, then there won't be so many people getting harmed by maternity services as there are at the moment.
You're someone who's caught many babies. You've watched many babies be born. You know, you've just seen them pop out of women. You have this very deep, innate confidence in birthing women. A woman who hasn't birthed before and maybe only ever seen what culture has fed her, may not know and may not have that trust. How does she transform from being, someone who questions whether she can do it? And, there is always the chance that she can't. How can she have trust in herself throughout that uncertain process and transform and be the strong woman that you're talking about?
I hear exactly. It's a really good question. We are birth workers. Those of us that are called the birth keepers. We will do everything we can to assist the birthing person to prepare. But like you say, nothing prepares them for when their bodies actually do this thing of expelling their little ones. So that's why it's so important that the person that assists the preparation in pregnancy is there during childbirth itself, because the relationship's already been built, the trust is there, and there will come a time, most women and birthing people at some point reach a point where they doubt their ability to complete this role. And who better to be there than the person who's been there with them all through their pregnancy to remind them, you've got this. And then they can transition and have their baby in their arms. So a lot of work can be done. I mean, that's why I teach KG hypnobirthing, but also being there antenatally, not disempowering them. So, not disrobing them ritually to do things like blood pressures. It's so unnecessary. You can hear through the fabrics. You don't need to disarm them. There's countries around the world where they have women opening their legs at every antenatal appointment for a stranger to put their hands inside of their vaginas to check dilatation when they're in pregnancy. All of those rituals disarm the woman, disempower her. And so by the time it comes to the point of expelling her little one, bits have been taken out of her. She's just had bits removed. She's lost her dignity. She's lost her pride. And you need that kind of power and strength to roar your child out. When you have that giddy moment where you think, what am I doing here? Can I do this? You don't want the doubts of your caregivers echoing inside of your head. Sometimes I look after birthing people who have been told a lot of scary things in their pregnancy, and then they have to fight all of that during their labours. If labour isn't a challenge enough, they've got rehearsing all the things that were said to them during their pregnancy. You're too big, or your BMI's too high, your baby's too big, or you're going to bleed out, or they're told all these things during pregnancy, and of course they come right into their faces when they're at that crossroads bringing their child forth, and it disempowers them. So excellent preparation is getting to know what you're capable of, making wise choices about who's with you at the point when you're giving birth. Are you going to wait for spontaneous birth, or are you just going to let the caregivers tell you when your baby ought to be born? And are you going to choose an environment that is suitable for this magical, spiritual, amazing thing that you do? Or are you just going to go to somewhere that you don't know, with a woman screaming in the room opposite and strangers coming in and staring at your vagina and all of that nonsense that goes on? If a woman can be assisted to choose wisely during her pregnancy, if birthing people can choose wisely during their pregnancy, and then choose wisely who's going to be with them at the point of birth, and then that person has faith and trust, competence, emotional intelligence to facilitate the birth of the child, you can't top that. That's incredible. That's good preparation being carried out. And then if something needs to be done, that the skilled caregiver knows how to offer that assistance carefully and doing no harm, only helping, not taking away from the birthing person because they've received assistance. So it's a really fine balance. It's hard to describe, but this choice, it's about choices. It's choosing. I know not everyone has many choices, and that's another thing that hopefully us as birth activists can improve around the world.
Yes, it is quite a journey in life to learn how to choose wisely. We're not really given those skills. It's a skill set, and it took me the 6 years from my first birth to having my second birth to really actually teach myself, because I realized what unwise choice led to, and I was like,
interesting,
dissected that, and I was like, okay, so now I know how to choose wisely, but then it's like you've got to practice it. So the pressure on a birthing person who's only got a few months to learn how to choose wisely suddenly and disconnect themselves from, the pressure, the lies of culture, and suddenly become their own independent person suddenly in a few months whilst worrying about this new baby and everything. That's a huge pressure.
When you put it like that, I mean, it does remind me, I mean, I regularly say it, and you've just reminded me again that this all has to start when they're young. We teach people to be compliant and in awe of authority without question, and then I do think it's a bit unfair of me sometimes. I then expect parents to question everything when they've been, they've had 2 or 3 decades of being taught to question nothing, and at such a vulnerable time. You're absolutely right. It's almost undoable, but yeah, I do see some people do it. But I think I'm just putting a cushion underneath my laptop. And I do see some people achieve it, but I know it's no easy feat, and I know I didn't do it. I made some very poor choices, and then in some respects did no choosing at all. And I'm very aware of that. And I guess as well, I'm like an ex-smoker, going and snatching cigarettes off of people. It's like, I had really bad births, and I'm not going to leave you the opportunities to make the same choices, which isn't fair, really. It's not fair, you're right. It's not fair. But it is, I feel like I'm sometimes rescuing people from a burning building, like, no, don't choose that. Oh no, she's done it.
It's a mothering instinct. It's a mothering instinct to go, oh no, I did that bad thing. Just don't go there.
Don't do it. No. Not allowing people their own choices. So yeah, I'm a bit of a bully, I guess. But anyway, the one thing I have done is that I do say quite regularly that I'm not here to change people's minds. I'm just here to help the people that do want to make certain choices safely make those. That's all. You can choose whatever you want. But what I am upset about is that some people do want to take responsibility for their births, do want to make certain choices, and they're being frightened out of them. And that makes me quite angry.
Yes, that is definitely the trouble. And I guess things like this interview and this series is about, helping them have that confidence. After listening to 40 or so people say, yeah, you can do it, I'm hoping that that's enough to go to counterweigh, the people who say you can't. Do you want to tell us the importance about why a birthing person needs to be trusted and sensitively supported?
Yeah.
And how we can do that,
our bodies work better that way. If we're not trusted, well, I mean, we mention it when we're teaching KG hypnobirthing sometimes. Typical when the English are playing soccer and it gets to penalties, and you've got a few minutes to see who wins the whole match. And that's when the biggest mistakes are made because the tension, the stress, the responsibility, and things happen. It's like when you're doing the serve, serving for the match point in tennis. That'll be the time when it doesn't go well, if you get what I mean. And I think that's why trust and confidence is so important. when giving birth. And so if birthing people do all the preparation and gain the knowledge and build their trust and confidence in themselves, and then they've got a partner that doesn't trust them, or skilled caregivers that don't trust the process or doesn't even know them, your body can't work properly. The physiology doesn't work. You've got the oxytocin depletion that happens when adrenaline comes on the scene, and adrenaline will come on the scene if you know that you could potentially do something wrong, or you're in danger, or something unknown, and you've got frightened caregivers, you know, getting shiny instruments out and waving around syringes and things. It just changes your physiology, and things don't work as well.
It's interesting, actually. Something just popped in my head. I'm a bit of an odd cookie, but, you know, when we look at our chakra system, like the trust aspect is our second chakra. It's like our authenticity, how confident we are of being ourselves as we understand ourselves to be outside in the world. And that second chakra, it's all about our emotions, our sense of belonging, you know, and that's where our baby lives, in our womb. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Is that our sacral? Sacral chakra?
No, so there's the sacral chakra as the first chakra. So that's the sense of like knowing who you are, like your integrity. And then the second chakra is like knowing who you are, but then representing that, you know, in a state where you belong in your community. And so
okay. So that perfectly aligns with my understanding of it. It's exactly that. And I guess there will be a closing of that area if you're not trusted, or if your confidence
if you don't feel like you belong. They're kind of intertwined, aren't they?
I can really completely see that.
Yeah, we actually had a really interesting discussion on Facebook, didn't we, about prolactin and everything. Do you want to actually tell us about the role of prolactin in childbirth?
Progesterone. It was our understanding of progesterone and prostaglandins. Yeah, we did.
Oh, prostaglandin. See, I'm terrible. I'm saying prolactin. I'm just like, they're all starting with pain.
All the hormones. It's about all the hormones. Yeah. Progesterone is interesting because it makes, when you've got plenty of it, it makes everything all floppy. So, you know, your cartilage and your tendons and your muscle layers and everything's all floppy, and it's quite high during pregnancy, and then it depletes so that you can have tone in your uterus to get your babies out. But it also affects your blood vessels. So your blood vessels, where before they're a bit floppy and your blood pressure's a bit low, it gets all stiff and turgid again, in a good way, but it means that your blood pressure gets higher. And often people don't know that, and which I would expect, because we don't know much about our reproduction. But when caregivers don't know that, it's a bit alarming, because you know, they then start treating you for high blood pressure because there's been a raise in it, but actually that's physiological. That's what's supposed to happen. Prostaglandin, I like the fact that it increases the more pregnant we become, and I like the fact that if you've got a male partner, they've got their own prostaglandin to offer the situation at the end of pregnancy if your cervix needs a bit of ripening. I like what you mentioned to me about GLA and evening primrose, and how that assists with the production of prostaglandin, which makes sense, because I think I used to hear quite regularly, not so much now, people putting evening primrose oil capsules up the vaginas to help ripen their cervix. So so, you know, that's a topical application. I always thought they were just taken, but no, he was like, no, put them up there and let them do their work. I think when you were talking as well about the role that progesterone may play in prostaglandin synthesis, I think I need to learn a bit more about that. Yeah.
Oh, that was just a guess. No, I was just trying to work out the connections. Yeah, just don't worry about that. But things like evening primrose oil, obviously, you know, hemp oil used to be a lot more common in our diets. Borage oil, You know, people used
Has
to
hemp
cook with
oil
these.
got GLA in it?
I think hemp does. Yeah, hemp is one of the things. So all these, you know, old leafy plants that we used to have a lot more in our diets. Like you don't go to a supermarket now and find borage, you know, sitting there on the shelf, or evening primrose, you know, because they, you know, they wilt. These things that wilt, you're never going to find in the supermarket, these big leafy, wilty kind of plants. So they're not in our diet anymore. And we're not,
So you
because
have
of
to go
that,
and
we're not
find it
getting what we
yourself
need.
then. You have to go and find it yourself.
Mm.
But they used to burn people that did that. They used to burn people that went and found it themselves. The herbalists.
So prolactin, is that something that comes in after birth then?
Prolactin. It's actually present during pregnancy, but it increases in massive amounts once the placenta has detached from the side of the uterus. You've got your boost, and then you
and that
can
makes
produce
milk come in, yeah?
That's right. So you've got your colostrum's been there from mid-pregnancy, but then your placenta coming away from the uterine wall sends a signal, okay, we can make milk now. And so, you know, between 2 and 3 days later, you've got your milk. Sometimes it's a day more if you've had a surgical birth. But we're so well made these days and very strong. So, you know, now we can, you know, heal a surgical wound and breastfeed our children, or we can breastfeed our children and menstruate as well. So they're getting quite able. In one sense, you can celebrate it, but in another sense, maybe it's an oversupply of carbohydrates. I'm not sure. But there's so much to figure out, you know, how is our lifestyle affecting our health? Is, you know, massive subject, isn't it?
Well, that's interesting, because tribal societies that are nomadic, they tend to have a much bigger gap between their children, because you can really only carry one at a time. Whereas, yes, societies that have evolved from a domestication of, you know, plants and animals, they want lots of kids to pop up quickly because they want workers on the farm.
That's
so there's
right.
going to be.
That's right. So all those adaptations, so true, so true. There's so much to learn. And I think that's the other thing that I feel really grateful for, is that there are so many of us that are finding things out about our reproductive awesomeness and sharing it in so many different ways. And I'm quite a visual learner. So, you know, I'm in heaven right now, the amount of things that I'm learning and seeing and that I have access to. It fascinates me all the time. I'm constantly fascinated. I'm never bored. I'm always learning something new, which is amazing. Amazing position to be in.
Do you want to tell us at all about whether the birthing experience is different for a woman of color, and whether, you know, birth workers need to be more sensitive to that and how they can be more supportive?
Yeah, I mean, do you know, it's a really easy answer. It's about listening. And sadly, a lot of assumption has been made about people of colour and judgment. And so no listening has been taking place. And so, you know, simple things like, you know, the people perceive that we handle pain differently. We don't. We just don't listen. You know, it's really as simple as that. We don't listen. We don't wait. You know, if we do have a slightly different pattern of birthing, you know, there's this theory about our pelvises. You know, the shape is different. So there's a theory that the way labour progresses is different. And I can see for myself that is possible, but I've also seen women who aren't black, or who aren't Asian. I've seen women give birth really quickly who are white or Caucasian. So, you know, I just think every woman is built slightly differently because we're all unique, and babies, they're all different and they all have their different path out. But if we are all listened to and waited for, we'd all do really well in birth. And I think that the darker you are, the less you're listened to and the less you're waited for. So yeah, I know it sounds a bit simple, but it really is as simplistic as that. A judgment being made on us because of our colour means that we're treated differently, and so we're dismissed. And dismissed people inside of maternity services can die. So, but once you've medicalised birth, it becomes dangerous for everyone, but particularly dangerous the darker you are. So that's why I know that my black skin impacted the way I was treated. I was dismissed. Things weren't explained to me. I know that impacted my birth, and well, the births of my children, so it impacted them too. And so I'm glad to be here to make a difference for at least their children. So, you know, I am going to be instrumental in how my own grandchildren get here. No one's going to be able to stop me. I'm hoping there are other people around who are experts at talking on this issue, like Mars Lords, Jenny Joseph, Elsie Gale. You know, they are titans at talking about this. My gifting is talking about improving the birth experience for all, and in that, elevating those of my colleagues who are specialists in improving birthing for subgroups. So, and they're all out there. So, yeah, I feel my calling is quite heavy about shouting about birth for all. Yeah.
Definitely birth for all. It's definitely about listening. Definitely about listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if we can get that right, we're good. There was that lovely, it went viral actually, that lovely sharing on Facebook of that nurse who basically saved lives. She was a nurse in the US, and she saved a woman's life purely by evaluating her own attitudes and then listening. And she saved lives. She listened and then she acted. And I just think we all could learn from that. It was an amazing story, really uplifting.
We sure can. Would you like to share with us, Kemi, how people can come and learn from you, learn with you, and follow you on social media?
Oh, I would love to. I like to a lot, so I communicate a lot. So, I mean, I know there's people with far tidier social media presences. I'm kind of all over the place, but I tend to communicate a lot on Facebook. I guess I'm in my early 50s, so it took me, I resisted Instagram for a while, but I think I'm in my flow with Instagram now. Twitter and I have an uneasy peace at the moment. I will try and get with that. But I tend to be known as Kemi Birthjoy Johnson. I speak wherever I'm asked. I'm quite discerning, but once I get a good energy, I will go. So I tend to be found teaching with Catherine Graves or Nancy Keane, teaching hypnobirthing to parents with Catherine Graves, and teaching KG hypnobirthing to midwives and obstetricians with Nancy Keane. And I can be found at my own Positive Birth Movement in 9 Elms, London, SW8, once a month. And I'm down at the Positive Birth Movement in Hastings, which is near the coast, East Sussex, once a month. And I'm talking at various places, Association of Radical Midwives, and they've got a few pieces coming out. For one piece for the Association for the Improvement in Maternity Services, or AIMS, is publishing a bit about me. And I'm working on a book about early labour. So, and it's not just a book, it's going to be an app and a workbook, online workbook. And it's not just a few hours of early labour, it's actually going to be all the adaptations that we are making to letting our babies go. So we adapt to holding them in, and then the changes start to happen a few weeks before to letting our babies go. So I want to illuminate all of that. And I especially want to spend a lot more time in schools. Yeah.
That's beautiful, because certainly when a birthing parent might start to feel, those Braxton Hicks and other things, or might see a bit of, changes down there, they can be very scared and think, oh my God, does that mean labor's coming now? And there's a whole lot of reactions that happen because of that. And it's just about letting go, isn't it? And just relaxing and
absolutely.
Trusting the body.
Have you got any dreams, immediate dreams for how things, you've put a lot of energy and wonderful time and preparation into this. What are you wanting?
Oh my gosh, thank you for acknowledging that. I feel very, very blessed and graced that you would ask and see that. Thank you.
You should be very proud of you. It's a big gift to women.
Yes. Birth for me is about reclaiming our sexuality. It's about the way we've made that baby is how we can carry that baby, and it's how we can bring that baby out. And when we feel beautiful about our bodies and about our mind, body, spirit, and how we are totally integrated here, and we can have sex in the ways that support that, have relationships in the ways that support that. And then, we can have our children consciously in a way that supports them.
Yes.
And when those babies, they come out of us, rather than it being a fearful experience, and God, it's intense. And yes, sometimes obviously intense is scary because we've not been there before. That's natural. But, if it's treated as a rite of passage and growth and potential ecstasy, and that our whole bodies are now learning to do something completely new, go to a completely different level. Our bodies, it's like, that computer game, we're leveling up. And if we can go there and claim that and own that and not have other people try and steal that from us and take us down, right? Because they didn't get to go there themselves. If we can do that, we are fucking here on this planet, and we are a force that can't be contained. We are the warriors of light. We are the warriors of the rainbow, because we've been there, we've done it, and we've been that creative life force, and we have owned it. And at points we'll think, geez, I can't do this. But when we let go and we trust and we have faith in ourselves, it is just done for us.
That's right. That's right. Most of the energy of birth is what's occurring in our minds. It's what's occurring in our emotions. Our bodies have got this. It's how we feel about it and how we're supported in it that makes all the difference. And if someone could just hold our energy whilst we do this amazing, magical thing, like you say, it changes our lives. It changes us as birthing people when we do that journey, when we cross over in that way, and something intangible happens to the being that is born. We're learning a bit more about it, but I was hearing the other day, and I need to read more around it. And I knew it before, but I was reminded that babies that are born abdominally sometimes struggle with trusting themselves and trusting processes, because they didn't get to complete that process for themselves. And then someone related it to me again and said, in a way, babies that don't choose their birthday, babies that are induced, also miss out on the power that comes with a full process. So, all these aspects that you're bringing into these conversations that birthing people are going to be able to participate in and engage with, and these are kind of precious, priceless spaces on the internet. that are going to change lives and change birthing generations going forth. I'm quite certain of it. I'm quite certain of it. I never used
it all
to feel
counts.
that. I really do. I really do now. I feel quite positive we're changing things.
It all counts, because it's like that 100 monkeys thing, you know, the 100 monkeys story of, the 2 islands. And once 100 monkeys on one island learned how to do something, then all the other monkeys on all the other islands, without having even met those monkeys, knew how to do it, you know. So it's just that, you know, that collective consciousness tapping into that knowledge. And then if enough people know, if there's that threshold crossed, then the collective just now know how to do it, and it's done, it's changed.
Right. Well, you've just put into words that's what I know is happening. I feel like we're all powering up. I really do.
Been beautiful talking with you today, Kemi.
We're on opposite ends of the world, and we, even before we started recording, there was a connection, and we are wanting the same thing. It's a collective wanting that we're all participating in, and I know we're going to get it. I know we're going to get it.
Sure are. We are. Well, thank you. Before we go, I tend to ask like a little general dreamy kind of question. And it's just like a little moment to dream. And my question for you is, you know, if every birthing parent around the world, you know, felt that they were trusted and felt that they had confidence in themselves and the birthing process, whatever that process ends up looking like, you know, how would the world change?
There'd be all of us that are born will know we're cherished, and we'll feel free to be sensitive and treat others gently, and that we'd communicate in a way without words, that we'd be able to communicate without words, because we'd feel each other. We'd feel each other so much better. We would. And a picture popped into my head of a mother who was taking her own child from her abdomen. She'd had an abdominal birth, and she was taking her own child from her abdomen, and she was exhilarated. Just picture just flashed, and I thought, if we could just concentrate those kind of efforts where they were really needed, and humanize abdominal births fully,
Yes.
those babies also would come into the world gently born. They would receive their entire blood complement too, because those in theatre would facilitate that. And it's just, I just can see, or if everything that I dream was to come to pass, there'd be so much gentleness on the planet, and we'd be present and fully in the moment and freedom. Yeah.
Definitely. It's a beautiful vision, that sensitivity and feeling. Yeah, we need more of it.
We need more of it. And it's coming. I know it is. I have done my life to see it.
Your mic's just dropped down there, Kemi, just if you want. Yeah, there's something covering your mic.
It's not a cat.
My cat covered my video screen.
I thought my cat would come in, but she's not bothered.
Everyone, thank you. We can. I just wanted to make sure people could hear you when we say goodbye. I couldn't have you muffled at the end for that.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and just sending out all my love to all of you out there. Love, we all want to give it, but there's a lot of fear around. But just find your people, find your comfort, find your joy, and big love to you, Akasha. Many blessings on you for doing this. Amazing.
Thank you, Kemi. All right, everybody, you've heard what Kemi says. Find love. Go out there, find love, find your people, and give birth however you want to, however you choose. And yeah, we'll see you next time on the next webinar. So see you, everyone.
Yeah.